Hi everyone, this is Mr. Ritzik from the English 162 W1 class, and I wanted to make a video to welcome you to the course. And I already made some of those MP3s so far for this class, but I thought I would make a video to say hello. And for the first week of this class, you really just have to introduce yourself to each other. And so you have to do the first post by Friday, and then you have to respond to another student by Monday. And so that kind of gets us off on a good foot for the class. And then for next week, and that would be by the 16th of February, you need to do an introduction sheet, which I actually keep in a separate folder in my email in case I need to contact you quickly. And so I'll have you do that. And then assignment one for next week is that you just have to interview 2 or 3 friends, family members, or if you're married, your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend or coworkers and so on. So you should do that. Now, when you do assignment one, something that I wanted to tell you is introduce each person. So, I interviewed, for example, my friend Corey Williams, and we worked together as certified nursing assistants at William Penn Nursing Home in Murraysville, or wherever you work, and then like how long you've known the person. In what capacity and so on. But I mean, even if you interview a parent, it would help to know obviously their first and last name and type of work that they do and so on. And the reason why I say that is one year for this particular class, I had a student and he was going to be like a physical therapist. And so his father did the same job. His mother was an RN, and his sister was like a nutritionist. So everybody pretty much in the family had that background. So in the opening paragraph, you need to introduce the people to whom you spoke and so on, and then also give kind of a sense as far as what they had to say. So, they found you to be a good person, very honest and trustworthy, or whatever the case may be. So that'll be your introduction. In the body, you're going to be using a paragraph with the interview, and you don't need any specific questions. You can just ask, what do you think of me as a person? What are some of my good traits, some of my bad traits, and things like that. But what I want you to try to do is 2 things, okay? Use quotes, if you can, at least 2 quotes in the interview, and then also, too, so if you can use an example, examples in writing really help. So I had 2 male students in this class before, and the one student said about the other that he is a really good person, and the example that he used is they were at the Walmart in Latrobe, and they were behind this mother, father, and these 2 young children under age 6, and so the family was about $25 short with their grocery bill, and the student said his friend, who was also in the class, another student, pulled out his debit card and just paid for it. And so I thought, boy, that was a pretty good example to use of him. So anyhow, then, so you will do another paragraph after that one stating what you agreed or disagreed with and so on. So that would be helpful to look at. And something that you will find is sometimes in the scope of doing these interviews, you may end up not agreeing with something that someone said. And, for example, I had a student whose mother said that he was lazy. And so he did not agree with that. He just said he's not lazy. Sometimes it takes him longer to get something done, but he does do it. So he did not fully agree with her. So if you do 2 people, you would have 4 body paragraphs. If you do 3 people, then you'd have 6. I do not want you, though, to group interviews together. So don't say, my mother and father said. I want you to do either your mother or father, or don't say, I interviewed 3 coworkers at work. Don't do that. Just pick a specific coworker and then interview him or her and state, what they had said. And that's an important thing to do. In the conclusion, you want to compare and contrast the interviews for similarities and differences. So, did the person say similar things about you, you're honest, trustworthy, or whatnot, or were their comments and conclusions different? So that's what I really would like to know, a comparison between them. And then the other point that you can do in your interviews is state what you learned from doing them. I mean, did you find out more about yourself? Did you have some surprising findings and conclusions, or whatever the case may be? But that's pretty much it. So those are usually between 750 to 1250 words, between 2 to 4 double-spaced type pages. When you do your assignments, in the left-hand corner, you want to put your name first. The second thing that you want to do is your class. So this class is ENG 162W1. The third thing you want to do is put my name, Mr., and it's HRICIK. And then the last thing you want to do is insert the date. And then you can skip 2 lines and then do the title. In the upper right-hand corner, you want to do a header. And the way to do that is you click on the Insert tab in Word, and then the one that you will do is pick page number, and then you're going to pick the top of the page, and then select the one that gives you number 3, and so it'll give you the page number. Then you'll type in your last name, hit a space and hit escape, and you will have a header. And then that way you don't have to manually type them in, okay? The other assignment that you need to do for next week is there are about 5 email links or article links that I want you to read on effective email. And one of them is like from the National Institute of Health. One is from the Online Writing Lab at Purdue University. I think there's like 5 of them. So I want you to read all of those. And then I want you to write me an email and tell me what you learned from reading them on format, content, use of paragraphs and lists, and emphasis. Now, for example, in terms of content, if you were sending out an email and you wanted to make employees more aware of needle handling safety, you would not have to send out the entire Excel safety manual that's 300 pages. That is not necessary. All you would have to do really is go in and copy and paste the 10 recommendations on needle handling safety, and then you could just put that right into the email. And so anybody that has a smartphone or whatnot, they can read it, save it, or whatever, but they would have that. So format would be like headings, subheadings, bullets, white space, in-text emphasis, and then of course even your subject line. So content, like I said, you don't have to copy, you don't have to include a whole big attachment. You can just put in what is necessary. And the other thing with content, you really only want to cover 1 topic or 2 topics per email. You don't want to get into more than that. So that would be something to keep in mind. Paragraphs and lists, when you write email, obviously you want to keep your paragraphs to 4 or 5 sentences or less. And then you want to use, for your sentences, you want to keep them to about 15 words or less. So, you want to keep them more shorter. And, and then also too, when you use lists, if you have 5 or more points, you can number them. And if you have fewer than that, you can bullet them. And then emphasis would be like bold, italics, underline, highlighting, font color, font size, font type, You can use exclamation points. Sometimes for even emphasis, I use like a dash or a set of dashes, or sometimes I use a colon. But just ways of emphasizing key points. You can also use capitals at times if you need to. So, but that's really what it is. So read the links, and then what you also want to do is, send me an email on those points. And you can send it in a Word document, or you can send it in an email. So either way is okay. There are 3 examples that in Word and assignments that you can look at how other students did them. And just a comment to you, when you send me an email, I want you to follow these guidelines. In the subject line, put your first and last name, put your class, so your ENG 162W1, and then whatever it is you're sending, assignment 1, assignment 2, or you have assignment 1, assignment 2, an information sheet, or, if you have question on assignment, then you can put that there. And then when you start an email, just say, Dear Mr. Ritzik, comma, and then you can say, I am sending you this assignment that is due on this particular date. And then the second paragraph in this assignment, I have done X, Y, and Z. Or as you go on in the semester, and as I tell you to focus on different elements of your writing, you can say, I am shortening my sentences, and I am using more transition words. Somebody that I had in class very recently, they did a consumer report on half-ton pickup trucks. And instead of, going to Consumer Reports and Road and Track and Truck Magazine and all that, they ended up going to 8 visits to dealerships. So they use like interviews. So that was okay. But they told me that in the email. And then in the last paragraph, say, please respond, and then give me a date. So, like, for example, next week you'll submit work by the 16th, and then say, please respond by Friday, February 23rd, 2018. And you will email me your assignments. Some instructors have you submit them through the grade book, but I prefer to have more of a conversation with you throughout this class. So, that is what we will do. And we will do a total of 6 discussion board posts, actually 7, including the introduction, 7 discussion board postings. And, those are pretty helpful to do because you also get to see what other people do and how they write and that sort of thing, which I really, really like. Something else that I wanted to tell you about this class, when I had this class in the summertime, I had the majority of students were from other colleges besides this one, and the majority of students I tend to get are from Penn State. But anyhow, one student from St. Vincent said to me, she said, I don't really like these online classes. I need to be in a classroom with an instructor in front of me, and that's how I learn. And learning can take place at any point. And one observation that I have is students that I have in these classes in the summertime go from place to place. So I had these 2 students from Penn State who were they were interns for meteorology, I think. But anyhow, they went to the Weather Channel in Atlanta. They were at AccuWeather up in State College. And there's a weather station or weather system kind of place out in Norman, Oklahoma, where the University of Oklahoma is. They were in Iowa, and they were in a couple other parts of the country. So they got to learn in that way. And I have a former student who is a power grid engineer for First Energy. His entire job is to go to places where there are power grid issues, troubleshoot them, have people come in from First Energy, whether they are technicians, engineers, or electric utility line workers or whomever, and fix the problem. And so he gave a really good example. There was a really large dairy farm south of State College that had 1,000 cattle. And so, they were having power spike problems and so on. And you cannot have that because, if you lose 10,000 gallons of milk, it's a big, big problem for a dairy farmer. So, but that's his work is out in a pickup truck, out in the field, diagnosing and assessing problems and so on. And I had a former student named Carolyn Kegler, and she had to come to Mount Pleasant. She's a Dell corporate rep, and she fixes computers and networks and so on. So she had to come to Diamond Pharmacy here in Mount Pleasant, and they're a pharmacy that sells to like nursing homes and places like that. They have commercial business. And so she had to fix something in their network. And I had a problem with, I don't know, the motherboard or something like that. I can't even remember what it was in my desktop computer. And so it was still under warranty. And since Carolyn was here in Mount Pleasant, she came to my house and she fixed it. But she said in a 20-day period, she is at her office half a day. All the other time, she's out on the road and she has, a Dell tablet, and she has just a few booklets and things that she carries around, and then she can also contact their technicians and so on. So, most of her work is out in the field, and I have one other student who is a RN and is a wound care specialist. And again, she goes to patients' homes, nursing homes, and so on. And if a wound is not healing, then she has to take pictures or she has to do like a Skype conversation or something of that nature, or send an email and then ask the doctor, what should they do? And most times they'll give some type of medication, or if it's really bad, they will have the person go to the emergency room and sometimes be hospitalized. So in my own opinion, taking an online course is helpful, and taking more than one is beneficial. I mentioned my background, but I'll just tell you this again because I think it's relevant here. I have a bachelor's degree in marketing and business from King's College in Wilkes-Barre. So, that was a good degree for me, and I've learned a lot from that. And I ended up going to the Navy, and then when I was out in San Diego, I went to San Diego State University and got a master's degree in what's called rhetoric, or the teaching of writing. So I went to school there, and so that was pretty good. But I started teaching full-time at this college in '92, and then kind of in my mid-career point, I decided, you know what, I need to go back to school. So I went to Chatham University down in Pittsburgh and got an online degree in professional writing, and that was pretty good because I was able to get that degree, and it was pretty much paid for by the college, and then I also got a raise. And I learned these skills, like how to create these YouTube videos, how to make MP3s. I learned how to do different types of social media, like a wiki, a blog, and lots of other things like that. And at one point in my time at that school, I had to do a project, and one of my classmates was the lead writer for Texas A&M University, and another person was a medical writer for Merck up in Boston. So they're a pharmaceutical company, but they also create lots of technical information, and they also have this guide called the Merck Guide to Medicine. So it's really well known in the medical community. So I got to meet people like that. And then finally, I am pursuing a doctorate degree now through Robert Morris University in instructional management and leadership. I am required to go to that university for a week each summer, so I have to do that in June. But otherwise, I do all my work online. And to be honest with you, think about this. There are two other people that I know that did it on the ground. It's 2 hours to drive from here to Robert Morris over in Moon. And on a bad day, it's longer. So then you have class from 6 o'clock to 9:30. So if I did that 2 nights a week, I wouldn't get home till 11:30 or midnight. Then I have school the next day. So this works out well for me. So what I am telling you is, in your future, if you ever pursue a degree and online works out for you, especially if you're working, there are plenty of advantages, to it. So that would be about it. And when we get to the third week, you're going to have to do some discussion board postings. If you do not have the book by then, discussion board 1, which is like revising these 10 sentences to make them into one sentence of 20 words or less. And then the other one is to revise sentences and or make them into the active voice. So I observe the person falling from the tree. That would be the active voice. The passive voice would be the person fell from the tree, and so you wouldn't say who saw them do that. And then